Hey guys, Newcomb here, and we got some fun, entertaining stories for you today. Today, we're gonna focus on entitled parents. The first one's titled, My Mother Disowned Me and My Family When I Wouldn't Name My Firstborn Child After Her. This happened about 14 years ago, when I was 21 and my wife was 22. We were happy to announce that we were expecting our first child. We had been trying for a while, and had been told by the doctors that my wife had some complication that would make it very difficult for us to conceive. I don't remember what the issue was, but it wasn't impossible, just very difficult for us. So we had basically given up on trying. We were just going to enjoy our lives together and have the back burner hope that we might get pregnant one day. And to our surprise, that day came. We were overjoyed and terrified at the same time. Nothing is as real as finding out you're expecting child number one, and it can be a lot to take at once. Everyone was excited. Congratulations came all around from family and friends, my parents' first grandchild, etc. My dad was probably the most wholesome I have ever seen or heard him to be when we first told him the news. My mom was over the moon too, at first. After the first couple of months, we really started trying to hunt down names. We had already considered and rejected the idea of naming our son after really any family member. We weren't just interested in that. We both subscribed to the idea that the sound of the name is important. Your name is the very first impression of people will have of you before they look into your eyes. They have already an opinion of you, and we wanted it to be a good one. I won't give any details the name we chose or names that we rejected. I'm not trying to bash anyone's names, and I think now that actions are much more important than how a name sounds. So after much deliberation, we finally settled on a name that we're both happy with. When we told our family what we decided to name our son, one person took an outrage with our choice. Of course, it was my mom. According to my mother, at least one person in each generation needs to have the name. It's the family name. She practically wailed at me when I wouldn't budge on it. It's the same name I gave you. And for the record, I don't like my first name. And I'm never called by it. I don't ever go by my first name. I usually go by my nickname or my last name, but never the first. I don't hate it. I just feel like it doesn't fit me as a person. So I decided to never go by it. It turned into quite a storm. I don't really remember everything that was said, but there was a lot of yelling and arguing. But suffice to say, we were the biggest traitors to the whole family, and we were tearing down our tradition that was passed down through generations. She blamed my wife, saying that she brainwashed me into thinking that. I was the one who came up with the name that we wound it up on, and my wife agreed to go with it. When I talked to my grandma, she said the name isn't really the name. It was her husband's name, and she named one of her sons the name. So in fact, it wasn't a huge family tradition. It just happens people started naming their kids after their fathers. And my mom decided to name me after her father, and decided that it was a tradition. Ever since then, my mom has stopped talking to me, and she said, I'm disowning you. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. For our next story is titled, My Mom Held My Newborn Baby Before I Did. This happened in the mid-90s, but recently I just saw a TikTok video asking about the new mom if it's okay to hold the new baby, and I'm reminded of this situation that happened to me. I was 10 days past due the date with our firstborn baby when my water finally broke. We went to the hospital, and about 24 hours later, I was still nowhere ready to deliver. My OB talked to us about getting a C-section, and we agreed. This happened around 10 p.m. and not an emergency, so my husband called his parents and my mom, and they came to the hospital. A couple hours later, we have a beautiful, healthy baby girl. What they don't tell you about C-section is that it takes no time to get the baby out and forever for you to get sewn back up. I was shown my baby, my arms were laid out with IVs and such, and there was no way for me to hold her. Then she was taken to the nursery and my husband went with her. what felt like hours, but it's probably more like 40 minutes as I was taken to the recovery room. My husband's there holding the baby with his parents and my mom. He brings her to me and I hold her, and it's just perfect. I ask my mom if she would like to hold her first grandchild, and she says laughingly, "Oh, I already did." I was still so tired and dopey, it didn't register with me. If this had been the end of it, it would probably be a non-issue. Now my mom will bring up all the time that she would refer to my daughter as her daughter and as her girl, even when she was an adult living on her own. When I would remind her that she was in fact my daughter, but she was indeed her own person, and she would always say, "Nope, she's mine. I held her first." It has made me crazy that she not only held her first, but constantly rubs it in my face. When we had our second and third C-sections for all three, I made sure to tell the nurses that I should hold the child first and told them what happened earlier. They were all appalled and assured me that wouldn't happen again. My husband and I were alone in recovery, just us and the new baby for those birth. My mom now gets pissy each time it would happen and would remind me that she held my oldest daughter first before I did. So tell me, is this mom a huge entitled parent? For our last story today is titled, "So You Get 2 New Year's Celebrations and I Get None?" I'm a bartender, and obviously when you sign up to be one, you have to commit to a busy schedule. These are during holidays such as Christmas, New Year's, Halloween, St. Patrick's Day, you name it. I don't mind working on these days, so I was scheduled to work on New Year's Eve. And while I did enjoy the shift, I couldn't exactly celebrate the New Year's. However, in my city, there's a bar that does Bartender's Ball on the 1st of January every year. So all bartenders who worked on New Year's Eve can have their own celebration. Do a fake countdown to midnight, get hammered, all the fun stuff you do during New Year's. I was going to attend the Bartender's Ball, seeing as I didn't get New Year's Eve off, but I was rotated on the early shift today. I figured there was no point in me going if I can't drink and have to be home by 2 a.m. So I looked and swapped my shift. One of my coworkers says she's happy to swap with me, and she was off for New Year's Eve, meaning she had already celebrated and I can have my own celebration. It was a win-win scenario, and we get to go to the party in our own way. She tells me over and over that she's happy to swap, but when the time came to swap the shift, she suddenly said she couldn't do it because she needs to take care of her child. Okay, I wouldn't mind that if it were to be true. I don't get to enjoy the New Year's Eve, nor do I get to go bartender's ball, but she does. She has New Year's Eve off, and she decides to attend the bartender's ball rather than going home to her child as she planned. When she came into work today and has the nerve to try to talk to me about it, she said, "Oh, you should have come." Yeah, well, I would have if you actually went home to your child and swapped shift with me. I get that I'm not entitled to a shift swap, but don't use the "I need to take care of my child" card and not take care of them. No idea what happened to the kid. She probably dumped it on her grandparents like she always does. And now I'm fuming at my coworkers, got 2 New Year's celebrations, and I get nothing. So let me know what you guys think about this story below. Alright guys, that's all we have today. Make sure you guys subscribe and have notification for new stories when it comes out. Feel free to check out our older stories if you haven't heard any of them. I'll see you guys next time.